dude. Thanks. I'm an addict named Lance. And this is the worst thing I hate to do in recovery, is tell you about me. But I am grateful to be asked to have done this, and your turn's coming soon. Because, listen, fear is at the basis of all this for me, right? That's what I've learned about the disease of addiction. And as far as, being asked on a subject, I was like, damn, man, what the hell does authenticity even mean, right? And it took me back to my first sponsor that says, get a fucking dictionary, because you're going to need it. And one of the things I found in the course of my recovery is that what I think I know is not always the real thing, right? Especially about words or the meaning of them, so my perceptions are flawed. And my ego is so big because of my low self-esteem, I assume that what I know is true. And thank God NA told me that that's subject to revision, right? So I always said there's always two sides to every story. And then there's the real story. Where I want to be today is in the real story, all right? I don't want my perceptions to be flawed, and because there is reality, regardless of everybody else's opinion, and that's where I'm trying to live today, in the moment, right here, right now. That's all there is, For I don't know how long I was the great pretender, my whole entire life, wanting to be somebody else or something, or when I get there, it'll be, when I have that or all that other stuff, and then it was would have, could have, should have when the shit hit the fan, so it was never here, and I think that's the gift of this program for me, is freedom from self, freedom from what goes on up here. So it's only been through the steps and through a sponsor, through slowly living the principles of this program, that I've slowly start to become who I really am. And it isn't what I think. And I need to say that so you understand. What I think is not who I am. All right, what this thing comes up with, and I have been letting it go for years before I got clean. So there's some basic laws to stuff. And one of them is Pavlov's dog. Feed the dog, ring the bell. 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 Get it in, go cop, get some more money, go, habitual. And long before I picked up, I was obsessive and compulsive. So I had been ingraining mechanisms, right? And that shit don't go away just because I got clean. It's because I put down the dope. That was just a symptom of my disease. Thank God NA told me that, because I wanted to blame the stuff on the table. We're talking about we do recover, or why are we here? I always said, because we're not all there. Old joke, right? And I've had the honor, or I guess the ability to recognize that I've been surrounded by some great people. That's you guys, right? When I first got here, I was like, a room full of drug addicts, give me a fucking break. I mean, really, But today, what I see is the authenticity of it, that, and I'm going to go down some rabbit holes. We've been racing to this moment, right here, right now. Everyone is here supposed to be here, right? Everything that's been said and done has been great stuff. Man, I've heard so much shit today. I mean, some fantastic. I'm like, yeah, all of that's me. So I'm not going to repeat it because, yeah, been there, done that. Like my friend says, got the T-shirt, And that's the beautiful thing of this, is I'm not alone, right? I'm not unique either. You know? Names, places, faces, all that might be different, but one thing I have in common with everybody in this room, same feelings, emotions, and being a human being, right? Before I got clean, I was a human doing, conditioned response, right? Our basic text talks about reduced to the animal level, right? It's another thing I got to remember on a daily basis. I got eye teeth. You know what animals have eye teeth? In our world, the natural world, who has eye teeth? Predators. I got eye teeth. They're meant to rip flesh. Just being honest. Yeah. Authenticity. All right. Our basic text says the most natural thing we'll do is use. It also says we act against our true nature. Oh, what's that about our true nature? Yeah. What's this thing talking to you out of the predator structure? Who's talking to you? A spirit. This is where I'm from, right? This is my process, right? Coming to believe something greater than me, right? We're all connected. Even at the molecular level, we've been racing from the beginning of creation to this moment. We're all made of the same stuff, not only physically, but spiritually. I'm probably the least religious guy in this room. I'll argue with you that I am. But I heard somewhere that even the kingdom of heaven lives within every man. So, wow, what's that shit? And that's what I find about being real. When I'm real, the world's real back to me, right? When I'm real, when I get used to living in real, authentic time, being real, I seem to get that back, right? And what's not real seems to stick out. You know, it's kind of like when I first got here, all the guys that had some time, I was sticking out like a sore thumb, right? It's easy to see how sick I was, right? You know what I'm saying? Because I was still pretending, I still had ego, I still had, and not that they're all gone. Listen, I got defects of character that are ingrained in granite, all right? And I heard every one of them today from all the great speakers, from the guys being real, you know? And I thank you for that, guys. Because I need to stay in touch with that, right? Because when I'm by myself, I'm in the worst company in the world, right? And the committee gets busy up here, right? Me, myself, and I start running the show, you know? And I forget that might not be who I really am. So it starts doing, you know, they said. I'm going to say, why did they do? I should have done. And then when them motherfuckers. Fear, anger, and resentments, the core of the disease of addiction, right? Yeah. I get this negative sense of self, right? I can talk to the God of my understanding in the morning, open up the phone, see the just for the day, the SPAD, right? One of the things I do is I get the basic text on my phone and I just hit it and let it scroll, and whatever paragraph it ends on, I read it and I send it to my sponsees. You know, and an hour and a half later, I'm out on the road, and somebody in front of me is like, "Why didn't they put on their turn signal? What the fuck?" And like, a couple more miles, why are they doing that? And then another couple miles, we got a relationship going on. And after all we've been fucking through, God damn you, you know. You know what I'm saying? Still thinking the world revolves around me. I'm 73 years old. Sorry to hear you're 84, by the way.
Here we go.
Listen, getting old's not for the faint of heart. I'll tell you that right now. But it's also one of the greatest things that's ever happened to me, right? Recovery and growing in it and getting to meet all the wonderful addicts in recovery that I've met, even the ones that chose to pick up again. You know, everything that has happened in the course of my recovery, even the pain, has brought me gifts. It's my perspective that makes it hard, right? And we were talking the other night, recovery's easy, man. It really is. It's pretty simple, all right? I'm what makes it hard. I am so resistant to change and facing myself and being honest with myself or being honest with you, right? And all I ever wanted to do was to feel what I get here, right? A connection with other human beings, right? Feel okay in my own skin, you know, not be afraid to be who I am in the moment, spontaneously, right? And I know when I'm like locked in fear or anxiety, and I know when I'm being spontaneous, and that is such a freedom that it's a jolt, right? And if I'm going to cop something anymore, it's going to be that shit, right? It's going to be real time, real stuff, you know, with real people. And some of the things I think about is, yeah, everybody needs this goddamn 12-step program in this world, you know? I say that to myself, thinking, you know, taking everybody else's inventory. But the real deal is it's what I do myself. If I take care of myself, right, everything else seems to take care of itself, you know? And it's been one of the first things that I learned here, right, was to surrender and to accept the fact that I had a disease, and I had a problem with that. I don't know how many new folks are here, or some of us old timers that need to hear it too, because I seem to forget about the disease of addiction, you know, and that it talks to me in my own voice. And when I first got here, I used to introduce myself as I'm an addict named Lance. I'm sorry, I used to say I'm a LSD drinking, cocaine snorting, or cocaine whiskey snorting, cocaine drinking, LSD junkie. And my sponsor said, Lance, why do you do that? And I said, what are you talking about? He said, you're in denial of the first step of Narcotics Anonymous. And I said, well, I just want everybody to know how bad I am, because I did all that, you know, put an LSD in a fit just to go where no man's gone before, you know, like I was Captain Kirk, you know, wanted to do the Vulcan mind melt. And if you understood all that, you're a geek. Just saying. But Steve said to me, he said, well, you're putting the emphasis on the substance, not on the disease of addiction. And I said, well, what's the disease of addiction? Because I thought it was the stuff on the table, man. I really did, you know? And he said, it's that funny looking thing between your two ears. And that was a spiritual awakening for me, to realize that it is part of me, right? And I got to remember that on a daily basis, because in any given moment, it raises its ugly head, and I think I'm in control, or I think I'm better than, or, you know, I'm taking your inventory, you know, because I got a better way, or I'm smarter, you know, or whatever. And that's all born out of fear, right? So for me, the destroyer is paranoia. You know? Oh, that's an old Kink song. Paranoia, the destroyer. Thanks, Phil. Thank you. I appreciate it. So one of the greatest things I guess I found here is that I don't have to be afraid anymore, right? And I got to remind myself on a daily basis that we're not meant to be here forever. Everything here is a gift, right? And it's a journey for me. And I was talking about not being for the faint of heart. A bunch of us old timers hang out together. Monday night, Somerset, come on down. Simplicity is the key. Everybody's complaining about their aches and pains and what's real. But purpose, right? Giving it away to keep it is probably one of the greatest gifts going. If I don't, it disappears, right? So I ran up to my sponsor with a year clean, and I said, Steve, somebody just asked me to sponsor him. What do I do? And he said, you'll never know when that guy's going to save your ass. That was his answer to me. So from that point on, I've always understood that the folks that show up in my life are here to save my ass, right? It's not the other way around. It's only through that I've been able to hear the things I need to hear come out of my own mouth, and then start wondering, am I being real about it and doing what I'm saying? You know, all that process, right? Because I'm a pretender, man. And I'll gravitate to that in a second. So it's about, am I really, really true to what I'm doing, right? And another thing I was told is, when I asked my sponsor to be my sponsor, he told me it was an honor. He also said, I won't tell you what to do. I'll tell you how I did it. And I was like, damn. See, if you tell me what to do and it don't work, guess who I'm blaming? If you tell me how you did it and I don't apply it, guess who's to blame? Yeah. And that's being true too. I love that stuff. And you know, that kind of reasoning, that kind of logic, and that kind of stuff that comes here, that I've learned from other recovering addicts, right? A bunch of dope fiends in a room together, right? Is the things that you can't buy. You can't buy this shit. You know, you can't cop this and put it in a fit. It's got to come sincerely, authentically. It's got to be felt for real and understood intrinsically in my spirit, right? And that's only been you guys that have been able to do that. That's all I got. Thanks.